The following television sports exclusive is another Mizlu Television Network 20th Anniversary Sports Special. From the Pocono International Raceway in Pocono Mountains, Pennsylvania, this is the first Pocono Van Scoy 500. This afternoon, you will see racing's finest NASCAR Grand National drivers compete in this challenging closed course race. The Pocono Van Scoy 500 is brought to you by Pontiac. Now is a great time to test drive a new 1982 Pontiac at your Pontiac dealers, because now the excitement really begins. By the U.S. Army. The Army, a great place to be all you can be. By Autolite, who make the right spark plug for every car built today. And by Old Milwaukee Beer and Old Milwaukee Light, two great tasting beers from Old Milwaukee.
Hello everyone, I'm Dave Despain, along with veteran stock car racer Dick Brooks, and we're on hand at Pocono International Raceway, nestled in the beautiful rolling hills of eastern Pennsylvania. Behind us, 37 of the fastest automobiles in the world are deployed on pit road, bundled up against the weather here as they prepare for a 175-mile-an-hour shootout in Winston Cup Racing's Van Scoy 500. Dick, it's a gloomy, threatening day, and weather has been a big part of the story here this weekend.
Well, Dave, it really has. They didn't get any practice, or very little practice, on Friday. They got even less on Saturday. They tried to qualify. It got rained out completely. So they have to start by owners' points, the way they line up in the point system, and that makes for an interesting factor. It puts cars like Buddy Baker and Cale Yarborough right toward the end of the race, or toward the end of the field. So in the early stages, it's going to make some interesting racing.
Well, it's a superstar-studded field. A lot of them are at the back of the pack. Dwayne Dow is going to have the story from the pits today as we bring you the Van Scoy 500. Back with the starting lineup in just a moment.
The word is out about Pontiac's new available overhead cam J2000 with electronic fuel injection and front-wheel drive to help you get quick acceleration, passing power, smooth performance on the highway, and the economy you demand. Pontiac's new overhead cam J2000 hits the road. Pontiac. Now the excitement really begins.
In today's Army, when artillery goes to the field, so does high technology.
Be all that you can be. Keep on reaching. Keep on growing.
Computers, laser-guided missile systems, and teamwork honed to a split-second response. And the Army gives you this kind of training with just a 2-year enlistment.
'Cause we need you in the Army.
Heavy fog shrouds Pocono International Raceway as this field works the pace lap. Here is the starting lineup. On the pole, the Winston Cup point leader, Terry Labonte out of Texas, flanked by the defending Grand National champion, Darrell Waltrip out of Franklin, Tennessee, looking for his second straight title. In row 2, the Alabama veteran, the captain of the Alabama gang, Bobby Allison, looking for his first Pocono victory, and Dale Earnhardt, the former Grand National champion, making a comeback after a bad season last year. Row 3 finds Morgan Shepherd on the inside, rapidly improving Grand National driver. And then Benny Parsons, the 1977 winner here at Pocono, the former Detroit cab driver. In row 4, we'll find Harry Gant. Harry, the veteran sportsman driver, now really making a mark on Grand National competition. And the old guy from Martinsville, Virginia, Buddy Arrington, who's been around this game a long, long time. Row 5, starting ninth, Dave Marcus, the transplant out of Wausau, Wisconsin, now making his home in Skyland, North Carolina, driving for J.D. Stacy. And Richard Petty will start 10th on the field, 7-time Grand National champion, twice winner here at Pocono. Further back in the lineup, starting in row 6, will be Tim Richmond and Ron Bouchard, Jimmy Means and Jody Ridley. And then in row 8, Ricky Rudd, Mark Martin, rookie Jeff Bodine, and Richard Petty's son Kyle. Further back in row 10, Joe Ruttman and J.D. McDuffie, Al LaQuasto with a rare Grand National start, and Lake Speed starting in row 11. Row 12 comprised of Bill Elliott, who ran so strong in the World 600 at Charlotte, D.K. Ulrich, Slick Johnson, and Tommy Gale. Row 14, Brad Teague, and look at this, Cale Yarborough and Buddy Baker, two of the great stars of the game, starting way back in the pack along with Jimmy Walker. Then in row 16, Bobby Waywack, Jaco Maggiacomo, Ronnie Thomas, and Lowell Cowell in row 17. And rounding out the lineup here today will be Rick Newsom, Steve Gray, and shotgun on the field, young Bobby Hillen Jr., and only his second Grand National start. Dense fog all around this racetrack, and this race will start under the yellow flag, Dick Brooks.
Well, it will. They'll run 2 or 3 laps under the yellow, and then they plan on putting out the green. They'll officially start the race. They'll run 8 or 10 laps that way until the track gets to a condition to where they can race on it, and then they'll go racing.
We're about 45 minutes late getting started. We have had wet weather here. The track is still a little wet. The heat from the headers will dry out the surface of this unique racetrack. There's no other circuit really on the course like it.
No, there's not. It is a triangle instead of a tri-oval. They've got a tight turn in the first turn. They go down a long straightaway. They got a short turn, which would be the second turn, and then they got a long sweeping flat turn going around the third turn. Then back down another long straightaway. So there's no other circuit like it. There's no other place that these cars race on that has this flat a surface.
175-mile-an-hour speeds, but very flat corners. Those corners really the key to this racetrack. We'll see a lot of dirt track style driving, a lot of power sliding here at Pocono today. The wet weather is certainly a factor. For a report on that, let's go to Dwayne Dow in the pits.
It's been an off and on weekend here at Pocono. The rain has gone away. It's come, it's gone away, and it appeared that we could get it in, and we're still hoping. But now it's starting to mist a little heavier as the cars continue to run under the caution flag. That's the weather right now, but it's very, very unpredictable and changes every 10 seconds.
Well, of course, these NASCAR Grand National stock cars weigh in at 3,700 pounds. They run slick tires, absolutely no tread, so they simply cannot race on a wet racetrack. The objective of this yellow flag period here to dry out the surface, prepare for 500 miles of action. Here's Harry Gant taking advantage of this yellow to duck in for some quick service, top off the tank, and he's obviously looking for a green flag and anxious to get this one underway. One of the drivers most fired up for this Pocono race is young Bill Elliott, who ran so strong in the World 600, a second place finish there, his best ever. We asked him about his prospects here at Pocono.
Well, Pocono's a different story. This is only the second time I've ever been here, and you know, it's a little bit different on getting your car set up. We've had a few problems on the car, and the rain hasn't helped anything, and I just feel like, you know, if we get through this race, maybe next time I can run, you know, extremely well. You know, you never know. When the race starts, it's a different story.
Bill Elliott is one of the new generation of stock car racing stars. Another of those drivers is Ricky Rudd. Might this be the day that you win the first one of your career, Ricky?
Well, I think so. I think we've got a young team here that's coming together real well. The new Piedmont Airlines racing team, we're running the Pontiac Grand Prix. They've been working real well for us. We've had a lot of bad luck as far as finishing the races go. We've been competitive. We've run in the top 5 consistently, and just seems like a few times we've gotten down close to the end and we've had engine trouble that's plagued us. But I feel like we're getting that sorted out right now and on our way.
With Rudd and a host of newcomers to NASCAR racing preparing to tackle the old veteran superstars, this one is ready to go. Tommy Van Scoy throws the green flag, and the Van Scoy 500 is underway. Down they thunder into turn number 1. Labonte on the inside, Waltrip on the outside, and it looks like rush hour on the Pocono Freeway. Dick Brooks.
Well, it sure does. I'll tell you, it's a big wide racetrack. It's 60 to 100 feet wide in places, and they're using it all. They're about 7 or 8 breadth.
Well, there they go blasting through the fog. You get an idea of what the visibility is like here as Dale Earnhardt closes up on that lead duo. Down the back chute, 3,700 foot long they come. Bobby Allison ducking down to the inside and making a move for the lead here. Meanwhile, we've got problems right off the bat back in turn 2. A difficulty here for Jimmy Walker. Walker has put his car into the wall, and in less than a lap, this race is going to go right back under the yellow flag at Pocono, Pennsylvania.
When our band's cooking, the music smokes. But not me, because like a lot of my friends, I use Scoy smokeless tobacco. I just take a pinch of that good tasting wintergreen flavored Scoy between my cheek and gum, and it gives me real tobacco pleasure without ever lighting up. So when you want something that smokes, listen to the Charlie Daniels Band. But when you want real tobacco enjoyment without smoking, try Scoy. A pinch is all it takes. Thank you. We appreciate it.
People ask me, what spark plug should I put in my Japanese car? I say, for short trips, you need a hot plug. Help stop misfiring. For long trips, a cold plug. It runs smooth at high speeds. Then I tell them there's a marvelous plug for Japanese cars. It works like two plugs in one, hot and cold, because it has this longer power tip. Then I tell them something else. It's not Japanese, it's American. Autoline.
We're back at Pocono, Pennsylvania on lap 36 of the 200 laps that will make up 500 miles distance here in the Van Scoy 500. Out front, Richard Petty leading Dale Earnhardt, and they've got a real two-car battle going. They wore through turn one. Here's one of the early retirements from this race today. Problems early for Morgan Shepherd in this one, and that's a big disappointment. He was looking for a good run here today. The fog continues to hang over this racetrack. The track is very damp, very slippery out there. And these guys are really being tested. All of their driving skills focused. Despite all the weather problems, a huge crowd on hand for this one. Some 60,000 people are enduring the bad weather here at Pocono, and they expect to see one heck of a stock car race. We've already seen that as Petty and Earnhardt have gotten at it early here. And they're beginning to overlap some of the slower cars in the field. Two-car battle, and they go three abreast in the turns. There's a lot of racing room here, Dick.
There is a lot of room. They can go, well, just like this. There's Earnhardt. Look at that, coming way down on the inside of a slower car. I'll tell you, that's going to set him up for a bad situation when he gets to the corner. It's got him going on a wrong angle.
Takes a wide line down into turn one as he tries to go under Richard. Oh, and Earnhardt's in trouble. He's got her spinning sideways. Just missed Richard Petty. Down into the grass goes Earnhardt, and now the car coming back the other. Oh, a near miss for Dale Earnhardt as he just about got plowed as that car came spinning back up onto the racetrack. Let's take another look at this now, and Dick, see if you can figure out what happened here.
Well, when he made the pass coming down the front straightaway, that gets him a little bit upset for coming into the corner. He's trying to stay under Richard. Richard doesn't really know for sure he's right there, and he kind of pinches him down. He's almost in the grass, and you can see it's starting to turn loose. By then, he's lost the footprint of the tire, and he's really out of control. So he done a super job. He's got a lot of power on it, trying to hold the car from running up the wall. And he overpowers it a little bit, and he's going to bring it down into the grass. And when he does, it's slick and wet and muddy down there. And, boy, I'll tell you, they pick up speed from there on.
That moment, he's totally out of control. The car slides back up the racetrack. And here's the moment that just about made a big problem for everybody. Earnhardt just about got clipped from behind.
Well, I'll tell you, sometimes just a foot makes an awful lot of difference, and that time it did.
I'll tell you what, that cat was going fast, too. That is going to bring out the yellow flag here at Pocono. We've seen a lot of that today. Harry Gant is on pit road. We'll see a flurry of pit stop action here as Gant gets a new set of tires. They're going to try to set Earnhardt's car right and put him back into the action there. He didn't make much contact with anybody. Here comes the leader, Richard Petty, on pit road. And all of this flurry of pit stops will shake up the running order here. We'll be showing Jody Ridley as the new leader on the racetrack. Meanwhile, look at this, a problem for Harry Gant. He's lost a wheel, Dick.
Well, he sure did. I'll tell you, sometimes that happens. The jack man drops the jack. The man doesn't have the tire back on. I think that's exactly what happened here, and he just lost it, man. And, you know, look at that running down there in the water.
Splashing through the puddles. Here comes Harry grinding along on three wheels trying to get back to pit road. Well, it's not funny. It's a bad break for Harry Gant, who
That's
started
embarrassing
up the
for somebody, too, you know.
And the other problem here is the possibility that he's doing additional damage to that car by running it in on the wheel, but he has no choice. He's got to try to get it back to pit road. So we've scrambled the running order. It's been a wild and woolly Van Scoy 500 already. Here's Harry back on pit road now, and I would imagine
they're having trouble getting the car
up.
They're having trouble getting it up. They're going to have, the jack won't go underneath it. They're going to have to jack the car up and put a stand under it, and then go back and change the jack. They're going in under the wheel well, so they're going to have to move the jack before they can put the tire on. That really creates a lot of problems. I'll tell you, it's going to slow them way down.
In all likelihood, this is going to drop Harry Gant a lap down. Terry Labonte, number 44, has also lost a lap already. And that's going to put Jody Ridley out front as we go back to green here at Pocono. And it's a wholesale land rush down the front straightaway, headed into turn one. Ridley being chased by Bobby Allison, Joe Ruttman, and Darrell Waltrip. Red car out front, virtually an entire lap down at this point. There's a move on the inside as Allison goes after the lead here in the Pocono 500, the Van Scoy 500 at Pocono International Raceway. Lots of room down that backstretch for lots of people to make moves. Allison has asserted himself early here in a race that he's never won, and he'd like to claim this one, I know, Dick.
Well, he's going to try to put Terry his lap back. If he can catch him and put him a lap down, that's one more car he doesn't have to worry about. But I'll tell you, Terry's going to tell him, hey, I don't want to be a lap down. He's going to try to get it back best he can.
Allison's got plenty to worry about right here with Joe Ruttman and Darrell Waltrip closing in from behind. Ruttman with a rejuvenated effort here, a new team, and turning in some strong runs in Winston Cup racing. He's a California driver transplanted to the Southeast, where he's now doing his campaigning on the Winston Cup circuit. We're in the early running of the Van Scoy 500. Here comes Allison trying to put that lap on Terry Labonte, the point leader, and he does so. For Allison, that's very important. He's third ranked in the Grand National standings. Labonte is the leader. And if Allison can put him away early today, it'll give him a real opportunity to move up, close in on that championship that he nearly had in 1981 and wants very much to win here in 1982. Down the backstretch where the speeds escalate to 175 miles an hour, Bobby Allison leads a freight train of NASCAR superstars into turns 3 and 4. Allison looking for his third victory of this 1982 campaign. And Dick Brooks, I'm wondering about strategy here. Allison's gone to the front. Obviously, rain is going to weigh in these guys' thinking today. What's Allison up to here?
Well, rain may have a part of it, but I'll tell you, Allison, this year, they have really not been very strong up until Dover a few weeks ago, and they just ran away with the field. And he's just going to jump out in front. He can't get in trouble if there's nobody in front of him to get him in trouble. So I think he's going to lead a lot of laps today.
Well, I tell you, there's a move from Richard Petty. He's looking strong today as he just stuck that Pontiac down on the apron and thundered up into the number 2 spot. Remember now, that number 44 car, Terry Labonte, is a lap down to Allison and about to go a lap down to Richard Petty. As two of the grand old stars of this game, Allison and Petty, lead the Van Scoy 500. Allison looking very strong as he asserted himself early. He's opened up about 2 or 3 car lengths of lead over Petty here. He's now trying to close that ground up. Here's an early pit stop, an unscheduled stop for Slick Johnson as he comes in for service. Bobby Allison running out front as he takes that number 88 Gator 8 machine up to top speed with Richard Petty closing in from behind. Two of the great names in the game here. The young kids are coming up, but today they're going to have to run down and catch these leaders. Bobby Allison puts another lap in the book at Pocono.
Oh, we got Cale in the hunt, too. You know, he's right close. There's Benny Parsons checking out. I'll tell you, when they jump out from behind those cars like that looks kind of funny. But Cale, you got to remember now, started right in the rear of this field.
We got a brand new leader in Richard Petty. He has brought Cale Yarborough with him. And that's a marvelous performance for Yarborough, who, by luck of the draw and the fact that qualifying got rained out, had to start way back today. And Buddy Baker is also making some moves up through traffic. He started way back there with Cale, back in the 14th and 15th rows in this race. Suddenly it is Yarborough right up there with the leaders, Richard Petty and Bobby Allison, 3 of the greatest names in the game, running out front here at Pocono. One of the rare northern appearances for this circuit, which is growing rapidly to become a true national sport. But of course, stock car racing is centered in the Southeast. That's where these guys are household names. In fact, the press notes for this race pointing out that Bobby Allison, in a recent survey in Alabama, had 100% recognition. Everybody they sampled in the state of Alabama knew who Bobby Allison is.
Well, Richard Petty did the same thing in North Carolina 2 or 3 years ago. He was more known than the governor was. But I'll tell you, you look down at this crowd today, and you can't say a Southern stuck anymore. I'll tell you, these Yankees are enjoying this thing.
You betcha. And they've turned out in force here today, despite the fog, despite the rain. A huge crowd at Pocono, one of the biggest crowds they've ever had in this facility. And they're going to get their nickels worth this afternoon with the likes of these guys running up front. Richard Petty and Cale Yarborough in a tight draft down the backstretch. Bobby Allison right there, lurking in the shadows and ready to make a move. They have all 3 demonstrated strong cars early in the race. It's a long grind. There's a whole lot more action still to come.
anticipation in the pit of your stomach because you're about to take the first real drive in your new Firebird Trans Am. Your pulse quickens as the exhilarating 5-liter V8 comes to life. Now the road beckons, and freedom is just a few miles away. The moment you've been waiting for is here. Pontiac. Now the excitement really begins.
The Blue Ridge Mountains and Milwaukee, Wisconsin are half a country apart. But to these guys, both places mean something great. The Blue Ridge Mountains mean bluegrass music, and Milwaukee means beer. Cold, crisp, old Milwaukee beer. And now, the smooth, golden light taste of old Milwaukee Light. Man, do they sound good together.
And old Milwaukee tastes as great as its name.
We have passed the midway point in the Van Scoy 500. We have had a yellow flag as Steve Gray stalled his car on the circuit. And now we're coming back for a restart. The leader is Benny Parsons. He's got Bobby Allison, Richard Petty, and now Tim Richmond in tow. The green flag is back out at Pocono. The field comes back to racing speed. Down the front straightaway, thundering into turn 1. Well, it's been a very eventful race thus far. Now they're all bunched up and racing again, Dick.
Well, I tell you, that's just beautiful. You very seldom get a view of race cars like that unless you're in a race car, you know, and it just, I'll tell you, excites me to no end.
Well, I'll tell you, you've done a bit of this in your time. Your best finish at Pocono was, what, a 5th back a few years ago, I believe.
I think I got a 5th and a 6th down there a time or two, so, yeah, we've run a race or two there.
Okay, as we work the lap after the restart here, we've got the field back under green with Benny Parsons, the leader. He won it back in 1977. Bobby Allison, who has never won it, is in his draft. And 2-time winner Richard Petty right on their tail. That's been the 3-car battle for these interim middle laps of the race thus far. Now Darrell Waltrip has elbowed his way up into the middle of that lead pack. And to update you on that story, Waltrip had a broken axle early in the race. He is several laps down. The car is strong, and he's up there racing with the leaders as they go 2 abreast on the back chute. Lining them up and peeling them off. Into turn 3 they go. And the new leader in this one is going to be Bobby Allison as he asserts himself in front of Richard Petty. They drop kick Benny Parsons all the way back to 3rd spot. The 4th car in that pack is Waltrip. Remember now he is at least 3 laps down and probably more than that as it was extensive repair on that car. Took him out of the race for a long time. Down the back chute, Allison shows the way. Richard Petty pursuing. Benny Parsons is next. The blue car, 5th in that pack, number 2, is Tim Richmond, who has emerged as a front runner in this race, obviously capable of sticking with that lead draft there.
He's been, up close all day, been in and out of top 5 and running very consistent, very, very conservative and very consistent.
We've seen a good bit of this today. Allison and Petty side by side. Oh, and they bump a little bit as they come off the turn and head down that front straightaway. And now they go 3 abreast as Parsons comes to the inside. Boy, that is just great racing. That's the kind of competition that has kept NASCAR Grand National Stock Car Warfare out front. Let's get updated on the Buddy Baker situation. Find out what's happening with his car owner, Hoss Ellington, in the pits with Dwayne Dow.
With Hoss Ellington and Hoss looking at the board, how you doing right now?
Well, I think we're doing right well. I think we've got the car's holding real good. So when you hang in there, I think Petty seems to be, a little bit quicker, but I don't know where the car's in the fast. And I don't believe that. Just the experience on this racetrack, and we had to pit a little bit early a while ago. We're coming back all right. Everything looks good.
Strategy between now and the end?
Well, I hope so. Today is my baby's birthday, 16, so I'm hoping to win it for. I hope so.
All right, Hoss Ellington.
Buddy Baker, of course, started way back in the pack with Cale Yarborough. Yarborough moved to the front and then broke. Now we've got Darrell Waltrip in front of this pack, and Tim Richmond has taken the lead in the Van Scoy 500. He has put his J.D. Stacy machine in front of Richard Petty. And now he's trying to put Darrell Waltrip back a lap down. Petty goes to the inside, and he'll take them both out. And that's a daring move, Brooks.
I'll tell you, they can get a good draft coming off of that 3rd turn. They got a long straightaway, and if 2 or 3 cars get together, they just they can go all the way from 4th to 1st, and they can put 1st all the way back to 4th. And there's nothing in the world you can do about it. You just watch them go by.
Well, you heard Hoss Ellington say that it was Richard Petty's experience on this racetrack that's making him so strong here. Petty had a tough crash here a few years back, but it certainly doesn't seem to have buffaloed him a bit. He's certainly not backing off a bit as he takes Bobby Allison in tow and heads down the straightaway where the speeds escalate to over 175 miles an hour. Both those cars are very, very strong. Waltrip consistently able to run with them, though he is several laps down due to that broken axle earlier. The Stacy car being piloted by the Indy 500 Rookie of the Year of a couple of years ago, Tim Richmond, right in the thick of it. There you see how close they run nose to tail. Dick, these guys put a tremendous amount of faith in one another, don't they?
Well, you know, you can run right on a draft with the guy. The tighter you get to him, the faster you can run. You put 4 or 5 cars together, and if you try to stay in line, you can just go faster and faster. And I've said it before, you know, it looks like it may be hard to do, but the guy in the front's not going to stop. He's planning on going to the end, and he's going as fast as he can. So it's your job to keep up with him, not worry about him stopping. So it's not quite as bad as it looks.
Got 5 guys with their hoof in it out there right now as Allison shows him the way. Petty, tight draft in second spot. Waltrip a couple of laps down, running third in that pack, but well down in the rankings. Richmond tried to make moves on the outside. He'd like to get around Waltrip, get up there and get a piece of that Allison and Petty battle. But right now he's having his hands full with Darrell Waltrip, and Benny Parsons seems to just be sitting back and watching to see what's happening up front.
Well, I'll tell you, Bobby's pulling them real hard right now. Richard at times today has been out front and really, really giving them a ride. But I'll tell you, there's Darrell giving a try again at that draft, and it's not going to work this time. He's going to have to fall back in. And so a lot of times if somebody doesn't go with you or really, really try to help you, there's not much you can do about it.
Richmond is trying to use Waltrip at every turn of the racetrack to keep those leaders in his sights. But it looks to me like Allison and Petty have got the 2 strong cars there, and everybody else seems to be having to scramble a little bit to keep up with them.
I think you're right. I think that between those 2 cars, the main part of the horsepower is right there. I think one of those cars is going to be a very big potential winner. I think when each one of them's in front, everybody else single files out a little bit more than they do if somebody else is leading. So I got to pick those 2 cars as being the strongest on the track.
They have put Waltrip that lap down. Both Tim Richmond and Benny Parsons able to get around Darrell Waltrip right there. And now Harry Gant has closed up as that lead quintet got to battling and going side by side. Gant has moved up into position to contend among that lead pack. Bobby Allison showing the way with Richard Petty on his heels. The youngster Tim Richmond is going to be quite a stock car driver before his career is over. Now riding in that number 3 spot. The crowd looks on, bundled up against unseasonable cold here. Don't forget the mist and all the rest of that we've had as well. We are confirming that Harry Gant is still a lap down after that incident that we saw earlier in the race. And he just joined us. Harry, on an earlier pit stop, lost a wheel when he went back out onto the racetrack. He's trying desperately to make that lap back up. As Allison, Petty, and Richmond put another lap on one of the back markers here at Pocono. Those guys are having a strong run here today. Dick, I don't think we can overemphasize the factor of this inclement weather. Rain continues to threaten. Heavy fog has hung over this racetrack for much of the last 3 days. And if this race were to be stopped, the guy out front is going to win it.
Well, it does, but most of the time they don't get the cars set up this even when they have rain like that. Somebody gets a big advantage and they take off, but I'll tell you, there's nobody there getting an advantage. I'll tell you, the fans here are sitting out in the cold, they're sitting in the rain, and they are enjoying it. I don't care what part of the country you're from, you've got to enjoy this.
They're getting their money's worth for sure from Richard Petty and Bobby Allison and the rest in the Van Scoy 500.
I'm David Mahoney of Avis, and I've had it with hearing that all rent-a-car companies are alike. No way. There's no one like Avis and the Avis people, committed to giving you the car you want, when you want it, and a car that works. Now that's some job. It takes top-notch service and everyone from top to bottom busting their gut to do it right for you. That's commitment. That's trying harder. And that's what makes Avis second to none.
There's a hungry kind of feeling, and every day it grows. You know there's so much more to you than anybody knows.
Specialist Kevin Crowley is working with tomorrow's technology in the Army's newest tank.
All that you can be.
The laser determines target range and feeds it to the computer.
Be all that you can be.
It's just incredible.
'Cause we need you in the army.
These babies cost over $300,000, and quarries are tough on their engines. So Fram designed a special double air filter to protect them. Now we've designed a double filter for cars. It's the Fram Extra Life. Inside, a normal filter. Outside, an extra filter. It lasts 50% longer than our old Fram filter, but it doesn't cost any more. So why not get one to protect your car? It may not have cost you $300,000, but it's still a big investment.
Thanks a lot, Simon Ice. I was raking in $150 for a professional poly coating, then you come along with Simon Ice Super Poly. How any amateur can do it for under $10.
This stuff even works on used cars. Simon Ice Super Poly bonds its polymers to any paint.
And it lasts for months, like the leading professional job.
Beautiful.
Oh, yeah, Louie. Just beautiful.
Simon Ice Super Poly. Try our cleaner and car wash, too.
We're ready to go back to green at Pocono. Tim Richmond ducks in for a quick last-minute pit stop. We asked Richmond why he switched from Indy cars to stock cars.
Well, one of the main reasons, I guess you could say, I gave it up, it's kind of ironic, but it all started here at Pocono International Raceway, that Joey Mattioli back in 1980 thought maybe we could come here after we just come off Indianapolis and maybe sell a few tickets and ask if I'd like to drive a stock car here in the NASCAR race. And I said, of course, but I'd never driven one, so we came. Our sponsors at the time, Uno, liked it. They wanted to continue it, and we just continued on. And once I got there and found out what the people were like, what the on-track racing was all about, I enjoyed it, I guess you could say, more than the Indy cars, and I stayed here, and I guess I'm trying to become one of the good old boys now.
Richmond, of course, was an Indy Rookie of the Year, but now he's really making his mark as we look at the attrition rate here in this 200-lap grind. The Van Scoy 500 at Pocono. Some of the big names of the game have already dropped out of this one. A whole lot more of the big names are running right up front. We're ready to go back to green after a rain delay at Pocono. The green flag is out, and it is Bobby Allison who jumps back out front as the field goes 3 abreast down the back chute.
Boy, that's something in it. I'll tell you, that's a pretty picture down through there, and it just, that is some fine racing.
Allison's done a lot of running up front here today, and it didn't take him long to get back to the front on this restart. Allison taking the advantage from Richmond, who got that quick pit stop, got in and out, topped off the tank, and now he's ready to have at it with one of the great stars of the game. Richmond is part of the new wave of stock car stars, the young kids who are coming up to challenge the old veterans who've been winning stock car races for a lot of years. Guys like Terry Labonte, who sat on the pole for this race and is the current point leader in Winston Cup racing. Tim Richmond, who's got a new team, new backing from the J.D. Stacy organization. Harry Gant is running third in that pack, but remember that he is a lap down by virtue of an earlier misfortune when he lost a wheel coming out from a pit stop. And while we were away, Benny Parsons has also gone a lap down now as he had to make an unscheduled pit stop for tires. Parsons was one of the front runners early on, so for this moment anyway, this has boiled down to a battle between the veteran Bobby Allison and the young kid Tim Richmond.
I think it'll come down to a question of experience. I think that as strong as Bobby's been all day and until Richard had his problem, I just can't see anybody beating him if he doesn't have any trouble, especially someone that has not had a lot of experience in stock cars, especially not here.
Richmond will go out there and give you a run for your money any day of the week. The first time he climbed in that J.D. Stacy car, it was one of the toughest races on the circuit down at Rockingham. He turned in a strong performance down there, strong enough that his sponsor said, hey, let's go for it. Let's run the season. And so now Richmond finds himself hot on the heels of Bobby Allison here at Pocono International Raceway, where rain has been a big part of the story. First day of practice washed out completely. They were unable to qualify the cars because of the showers. And throughout much of the afternoon, they've been running on a pretty slippery racetrack.
Well, it's a flat track. It's the cars get to do a little dirt track style driving. And when the tires get hot and slick and they get in a draft like this, they do get the slipping and sliding a lot. You can see them coming off a third turn there a lot of times about half sideways. And at 140, 150 miles an hour, which they come off of that corner at, that's fun and it's exciting.
You bet. Fun to watch, too. I guess you've been out there. You've seen it from both sides. You've been under the wheel and now getting a chance to see it from up top side. Which view is better?
Well, going forward like that is good. I've seen it from going backwards, too. Sometimes that gets spooky, but I'll tell you, sitting out there driving for a race driver is an awful lot of fun. We're sitting up here talking to y'all is a lot of fun, too.
Well, those guys are certainly having a ball out there as Allison leads Richmond with Harry Gant in tow. Gant a lap down because of his early misfortunes. Bobby Allison has been the dominant force in this race thus far. He had a real challenge early on from Richard Petty, but then Petty ran out of gas, had to be pushed into the pits by son Kyle. There is Richard closing up on that lead trio, but keep in mind that he has lost 2 laps now as a result of that misfortune. So it's Allison out front with Richmond right behind him in second spot. The third car in line is Harry Gant. He is a lap down in third spot. Then it's Richard Petty, who is 2 laps down, and right behind Petty is Benny Parsons. He is 1 lap down, running on the same lap with Harry Gant, so he'll try to close up and make that a battle for third. Petty coming out of line, he wants to unlap himself, Dick.
Well, he does. He'd like to get 1 lap back, and he could get to, get to racing back with those 2 cars, and Terry Labonte's right behind him, and he's also in the same lap. So if Richard could get 1 lap back, which he's strong enough to do it, he's stronger than the rest of those cars in that pack. So if he could get that 1 lap back, then he could gain a whole bunch of positions.
Of course, anything can happen in this game. The yellow flag very much a factor here, and don't forget that threat of rain. We've seen it already stop this race once today, and that could happen again. The fog still hangs heavy at Pocono as Richmond hassles with Bobby Allison here for the lead. There's Petty again trying to get to the inside. If he can get back in front of those 3 cars, he will then be just 1 lap down to the leaders. Who at this point are Bobby Allison and Tim Richmond. The green and white number 88, blue and yellow number 2 are the front runners here for the Van Scoy 500. And it's a classic matchup of the experienced veteran and the young driver trying to make a name for himself in the game. And I need to correct an earlier call there on Richmond. We had him at Rockingham for his debut for the J.D. Stacy team. It was actually Darlington, Dick, which is probably as tough a racetrack as there is on the circuit.
Darlington could be the worst place there is for a person to start racing. It's the only place we have an actual rookie test that you have to go out and run certain speeds, and you're judged by people in the Darlington Union Oil Record Club, which I was a president of one time, and it's a very elite club for race drivers. And they're pretty tight on who they pick to run on the racetrack. It's a tough place to start. He done good.
Well, here they come, scrambling and shuffling the deck down the straightaway. Petty trying to unlap himself, and Benny Parsons trying to do likewise. If Parsons can get around those 2 front runners, he'll be back on the lead lap, trying to make this a 3-car showdown. Petty has wedged himself in front of the Stacy automobile of Tim Richmond. Parsons comes with him. Richmond suddenly has lost the draft on the leaders there, and could be a possible problem there. I don't know, Dick.
I think he pushed up just a little bit going in the corner, got a little bit too hard, and it got him in trouble. Petty, I tell you, Petty is running a race like you haven't seen in a couple of years. He is really the old Richard Petty, and he's having a ball. And this is a place where he got hurt, and it wasn't too long ago, and it was just right in front of where he is right now, just as they crossed the tunnel there. He had a problem and backed into the wall.
So Richard Petty gets 1 of his laps back, and Bobby Allison leads the Van Scoy 500.
Among the world's great road cars, a new star is taking its place, an American road star from Pontiac. It's called Pontiac 6000, with an electronic fuel-injected 2.5-liter engine and front-wheel drive to move you out with authority, power rack and pinion steering, and McPherson strut front suspension to make its handling as exciting as its looks. Pontiac 6000, taking its place among the road kings of the world. Pontiac. Now the excitement really begins.
The Florida Keys and Milwaukee, Wisconsin are a whole country apart. But to these guys, they both mean something great. The Keys mean stone crab, big and fresh, and Milwaukee means beer, cold, crisp, old Milwaukee, and the smooth, golden light taste of old Milwaukee Light. And man, what they made for food like this.
And old Milwaukee.
An old Milwaukee Light.
Tastes as great as its name.
It doesn't get any better than this. At Pocono International Raceway in Pennsylvania with just 10 laps to go, Bobby Allison hanging on and trying to win the Van Scoy 500, trying to win at Pocono, the only super speedway on which victory has eluded this veteran leader of the Alabama gang, the 44-year-old campaigner from Hueytown. chasing Richard Petty here. And to update you, in case you joined us late today, Richard Petty lost 2 laps early on when he ran out of gas. Has been perhaps the strongest car in the field all day long. Now he's giving Bobby Allison what amounts to a free ride home here. If Allison can hang on and keep that car together through the final 10 laps here, he's going to pull off a major victory, and Petty's going to have a hand in that, Dick.
Well, I think there's little bitty things that has set up during this race, or most races, that create the situation the way it is. Benny Parsons and Harry Gant have, if not have been for tire problems or minor tire problems, they would have been, you know, right in the chase. They're uptight, running for now for third and fourth place, you know, and they could be running for first and second just as easy. Harry had a pit problem. He lost a tire. Benny had some tires out of balance and they couldn't find it. They come to change right sides and it turned out to be left side. So they had to come back. He got a lap back and hasn't been able to get it back up yet. So I don't know. You know, it's the little things that keep people from winning races. And in this case, Richard's little thing was not watching the board.
Here's the race for that third spot now, hammering down the back chute. And Harry Gant, for the first time in recent laps, asserts himself for the moment. Got a fender out in front of Benny Parsons. But Parsons stomping and stomping right back by. Meanwhile, Allison is stretching his advantage here as he looks for his 68th career Grand National victory. Certainly one of the superstars of the game. A man who in his illustrious career has picked up over $3 million in prize money in NASCAR racing, and he's one of 11 millionaires in the Grand National car competition. Certainly one of the stars in the game. Weather continuing to be a factor here all day long. It's been foggy, drizzly, a heavy rain at mid-race, stopped the race, brought out the red flag. They had a long period of actual not running on the racetrack, and then followed that with a bit of a caution period while they dried out the track. So it's been an interrupted 500-miler, but for Allison, things are looking bright right now. It couldn't be sunnier for him as he heads for an apparent victory. Keep in mind that Tim Richmond is your second place man. He has fallen out of the lead draft, but he's still on the same lap with Allison.
Well, that's true, and Petty's trying awful hard to stay in front of Bobby in case it does start to rain. They're about to run out of laps, but they've got a little time left. They've got enough that it could come a shower, create a caution, and then maybe kind of dash for the end, you know. And if Petty can stay in front, that does happen. He can go back, get back around where he can, you know, try to beat Parsons and Ricky Rudd's in the same lap. So you got Ricky Rudd and Parsons and Harry Gant that he could pick up 3 or 4 spots if he can just stay in front. And that's the reason I think he's running so hard.
And if nothing else, of course, just being out in front is what Richard Petty is all about. He's won 195 races in his illustrious Grand National career. And you can bet that the disappointment of not winning this one when he had apparently the strongest car out there is going to live with him for a while. It is Bobby Allison in command. This one comes down toward a finish. Bobby Allison, one of the most active drivers, not only in Winston Cup racing, but every week he'll be out there running a short track somewhere and putting on a show for his millions of fans all across the country. He does a lot of race driving, Dick.
Chances are he'll run another race tonight somewhere. You know? He's, I'll tell you, he's a race driving fool. He'll run anything that's got wheels on it, any place just about. And if it pays, it pays. If it doesn't, well, he just had a lot of fun. So. He enjoys it.
They joke about Allison Airlines. He owns his own plane, flies back and forth to the races. And as Bill points out, a lot of times he'll finish one race, jump in the plane, fly halfway across the country to another racetrack somewhere, and climb in a sportsman car, a late model, or whatever. And again, put on a show for the fans who love Bobby Allison across the length and breadth of stock car country. Today, he's closing in on a super speedway victory that has eluded him throughout his long career. Never won at Pocono, but it looks like today might very well be the day as he bird dogs Richard Petty down the backstretch. And boy, it's getting dark out there, Dick. I tell you what, I wouldn't guarantee that this one's going to go to the finish without some more problems from that weatherman.
That's right. The weather's closing in. It just keeps getting darker and darker and darker, and coming back over what would be the first turn. It's getting hazy, and the ceiling's coming down. So I don't know. They're going to have to hurry along here.
They're close to a finish here. Allison has been the dominant force in the race since Petty has had his problems, and that problem, again, to reiterate, a fuel difficulty. He flat ran out of gas. Boy, I tell you what, that's as close to rain as it can get without actually falling on the racetrack. Richard Petty and Bobby Allison coming down the front straightaway and eyeing the starter's stand to see if perhaps a yellow flag may be about to come out here. but the moisture is collecting on the racetrack. It doesn't take very much of that water to send them skittering off into the wall, Dick.
No, it really doesn't. And in the second turn, here's where Petty had the bad wreck and got himself hurt a few years back, and it's a bad corner anyway. It gets a little bit damp. Well, there's going to be a problem. Look at Richard run Bobby clear to the bottom of the racetrack. Said, hey, man, I done let it this long. Now I'm not going to let you have a hole over here.
I tell you what, these guys are having at it. They've been doing this for so many years that they don't know any other way to do it. Bobby Allison hanging on here, battling the weatherman, battling Richard Petty, and trying to pull off a victory in the Van Scoy 500 at Pocono. These two cars pulling away from the rest of the competition. Tim Richmond looked like a challenger in the late stages of this race, but now he simply has not been able to stand the gaff and maintain the pace of the front runners as Petty and Allison have hooked up in a draft, and they've just literally run away here in the late laps of the competition. And now, Dick, that rain is really starting to come down.
Yes, it is. It's raining too hard to race. Way too hard now. They're going to have to be a caution flag. Yeah, there comes the caution. That is going to end this race the way it is. Petty done what he wanted to do, and Allison done what he wanted to do, and Allison will be the winner, I think. I don't think they'll red flag it. I think they'll go ahead and finish it, and that's the way it's going to end up.
All this rain hasn't dampened the enthusiasm of the crowd or of Joe Mattioli with our Dwayne Dow.
Joe Mattioli III, the man who runs Pocono Raceway. Joe, the gods are looking over you after 197 laps, the hardest rain of the day. But what a show the fans have seen.
I'll tell you, NASCAR could not have done a better job than what they did here today. They really got this track in racing shape. I don't know of anybody who could do what they did here today, and I've got to give my crew compliments for working in some severe conditions, and Tommy Van Scoy for sponsoring this race.
Well, I know Mizzlou Television Network crew happy to be here, and Joe, we hope we're here for many, many more years.
Well, I think the fans that were here, and I'm sure you saw, we had a super exciting race, and they're typical at Pocono.
Well, I'd second that notion, Dick Brooks. I think those folks got their money's worth today.
Well, I know they got their money's worth. I've been sitting here watching them. They've been hooping and hollering and yelling, and they've got a very, very good crowd, and they stayed out here in it, and they're going to see the finish of the race right here. Harold Kinder's going to show them a checkered flag, and Bobby Allison has won something that he's been wanting to do a long time and has not had a chance to. And I'll tell you, I'm glad I was a part of it, and I believe all the fans believe that they were glad they was a part of it.
Checkered flag falls on Bobby Allison, his 68th career victory, and it came at virtual walking speed here as the Van Scoy 500 finishes under a yellow flag in heavy rain, the kind of rain that has marked this entire racing weekend here in the Pocono Mountains. But despite the showers, it's been another great stock car battle, a classic example of Winston Cup competition. This one has fallen to Bobby Allison.
You can feel the anticipation in the pit of your stomach because you're about to take the first real drive in your new Firebird Trans Am. Your pulse quickens as the exhilarating 5-liter V8 comes to life. Now the road beckons and freedom is just a few miles away. The moment you've been waiting for is here. Pontiac. Now the excitement really begins.
Schick Super 2 announces
Macho Shake. Get Super 2 for the Macho Shake.
Don't just get close, get macho close with Schick Super 2. Each twin blade home to the ultimate sharp for shaves so close they're
macho close.
Also fits Atra and Track 2 razors.
Macho Shake.
Get macho close.
Shake Super 2.
Keep right rolling on.
Well, when you're with a team of guys like this bunch of guys, Diegard and Gatorade, you just really feel like putting out the effort, and really the car drove so good today. I can't compliment it enough.
Anything else to say to the nation's race fans and our Mizzlou Television Network nationwide telecast?
Well, I just appreciate Mizzlou telecasting this race. NASCAR Grand National Winston Cup racing is the greatest there is, I think, and I think as the fans see it, they all got to agree, and they saw a heck of a race today.
Well, it's all over. Now it's raining harder than it has all weekend. But all the rain and the fog couldn't stop Bobby Allison from winning at Pocono. Dave, that's it from here.
Well, for a good many laps here today, it looked like the weatherman might be the big winner at Pocono, but in the end, 500 miles were completed. Bobby Allison comes home a winner, and I'll tell you, Dick Brooks, that team's looking like a championship contender.
Well, you're exactly right, Dave. They just seem to be really putting it together. For the first time this year, they looked really, really strong. They've had a couple good runs in the past, and early part of the season they had a lot of trouble, but they sure put it together today. And I'll tell you, Richard Petty in that STP Pontiac really gave him a run. He looked better in this race than he has in a couple of years. So I'll tell you, it's going to be an interesting season.
Well, there's the champagne cork popping, a victory celebration here for Bobby Allison. It's well-deserved, and a good day for the Petty crew indeed. We're coming back to Pocono July 25th for the Mountain Dew 500. You'll see it on a lot of these same stations. For Dick Brooks and Dwayne Dowd, I'm Dave Despain. Thanks for joining us.
From Pocono International Raceway, you've just seen the first Pocono Van Scoy 500 stock car race, featuring the world's best NASCAR drivers. This program was brought to you by Pontiac. Now is a great time to test drive a new 1982 Pontiac at your Pontiac dealers, because now the excitement really begins. By the smokeless tobaccos, Scoy, Copenhagen, and Happy Days, enjoyed by millions of guys for tobacco pleasure without smoking. And by Fram, Extra Life Air Filter, 50% extra life at no extra cost. Ms. Lou TV's 20th anniversary coverage of NASCAR Grand National Racing continues in early August with the Pocono Mountain Dew 500. Check your local listing for station and time. This has been a Ms. Lou Television Network 20th Anniversary Sports Special.